Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We don't have any minutes for this meeting. No road encroachments, so that leaves us with the county school report. Cathy.
Well, good morning, and thank you for letting me present my annual report for the year 2020. As I go through this information, I will be reflecting back on the changes from just the previous year, not a 5-year snapshot, but from 2019. So last year was an interesting year for the schools. We were able to get in the spelling bee for 2020. Before COVID-19 hit, there were 53 participants. We still had a county transportation committee meeting, and there we approved 18 school bus routes. So that was one more route than the previous year in 2019, but your miles were relatively the same. And what had to happen is some were extended out or broken down to meet the guidelines of the COVID restrictions. Those routes were then sent to the county road department for them to use for plowing priorities. If we look down and through there, we see that the bus drivers, last year in 2019 we had 43, in 2020 we only had 32. So there is a great need for school bus drivers at this time. It is hard to keep your certification up, and so I think that's why we have less bus drivers than before. We had 28 bus inspections. That is comparable to last year. We had one school van, and that came in at the latter part of last year, and we have since added one more van. We have 15 individual transportation contracts. Some of those are isolated contracts because of the fact that we couldn't fill one of our bus driving routes, and so we offered those as individual transportation contracts. We still had the number of school board meetings, whether they were virtual or whether they were in person. I still have 7 gross teachers that I was able to evaluate in the year 2020. For the board of directors, there are still the same amount of us. We met in our monthly meetings. We either met virtually or in person. I'm still the acting director for RISA Region 2, which is put into law that we are to provide professional learning opportunities. We have yet to hire a director on that, so here I am still in that position. That encompasses the 9 county areas all up along the High Line past Blaine County. The small school administrators still met. We met virtually or eventually in person, about the same amount of meetings that we had. When we do have legislative sessions such that we are in, if we were preparing for it, we usually had little committees meet. That was before the end of the year. I check and confirm all school budgets, and we still have 7 elementary, 3 high school, and 1 K-12 joint school district. We have 2 attendance centers that hook on to those elementaries. I publish an annual report in the newspaper for the end of the year financial status for each of the school districts, which is a requirement by law. I made monthly requests to the Teton County Treasurer for distribution of the county levy funds in retirement and transportation. If you look at number 12, 124 certified teaching certificates. Last year was 122. We did have some virtual teachers that were addressing the issues of online learners. So that was really nice to take advantage of them. And they also just certified they registered their certificates with me. We had new trustees that come in. A little bit about the roster. You'll see that we had certified staff roster. It pretty much, varied 1 or 2, but nothing drastically. We still had an online staff handbook. A lot of that, as you reflect down through the other ones, did not include any kind of teacher or parent meetings. So our parent correspondence, because of COVID, was done pretty much by letters. We did a lot of phone calls, so our interactions, as were our correspondence with them throughout the year. The board policy binders have changed. We did have an emergency 1900 series that dealt with COVID that will terminate when they feel the pandemic is over. As we progress through this, such as the mask mandate that was rescinded, then of course we make that adjustment in our emergency policies per school and how they feel they want to do that, which is local control, which is good. We still had testing of ELL students, English language learners, and so that still took place. It took place online. We're able to do that just on our technology. We are also still bound. We have no waivers that have come down yet. We're still bound to the Smarter Balance, which is our daily or our yearly state assessment. We have waivers in place because in the larger school districts, it would be virtually impossible meeting all the social distancing and all of the requirements for fidelity to give the kids the test, which is approximately 5 or 6 hours long. So they have a shortened version that they're hoping that will be passed through the federal organization that we will be able to use as a waiver that'll give a snapshot. My rural schools also do a variety of testing that occurs 3 times during the course of the year, and that would be another one that they could utilize because the students hadn't been on to practice the format of the Smarter Balance testing. I have to submit annual reports to the OPI yearly in order to keep our accreditation. I still have my same supervising teachers. That has not changed. So we pretty much know that. Our accreditation carried through. It was waived for this year, so it was more formality on paper for this year, and the accountability will come in as we get done with this pandemic. So that was the team's report or the school improvement plan. We still are responsible for Title I, II, and III. Those federal grants did not change, they came in as true form. Some were extended out. They allowed us to extend the use of the money for a longer period of time, especially like gifted and talented. If we were going on a field trip or we were taking kids to the science fair and participating in that, and it was virtually not done last year, and one incident, the student graduated from 8th grade. So here we are, and we're trying to make then some amendments to that so that we can still gather that money and use it for other students. And so they're pretty good about letting us extend that on right now, and should be through, sometimes it's through September and sometimes it's continue and will go into the next year. Okay, so we have 2 schools. One school is a school-wide Title I program, which means we can help all the students in that school, whether they have special needs or not. So it gives us more uniform. The kids are able to participate. You're able to do it more classroom-wide. I am now in the process of doing another school that is a targeted Title I school, and I am writing that grant now that will allow, or that plan now that will allow for all students to be included in that, and it just lets the teacher address the whole classroom, student partnering, student think, pair, share, things like that. So that helps. That should be done and reviewed by OPI in June. The civil rights is a lot of a reflection monitoring that we have to do at the federal level, which we already do at the state level, which would be nice if they just share that information, but of course it's not done. That is quite extensive to do, and last year we were asked to do it, and it reflects the 2 years ago, but they use that information when they come to the federal statistics. And the lawmakers look at that information also. So it's very good that we are considered frontier schools. Our little rural schools are frontier schools. We're not even rural schools, but at least that we're acknowledged now because of our reportings for that. Homeschools is the biggest thing. So when you look at the homeschools, number 29, we registered 53 homeschools were registered, 29 last year. That was a 55% increase over the previous year. And there are a variety of reasons for that, which you have seen throughout the newspapers on the course of this last year. Also, we sent out notifications of county and state contests throughout the years to these homeschools. We tried to get them into programs and everything else. We did have a couple that were able to go back into the distance learning part that was offered by the schools. So that was very nice that they utilized that and decide they'd just go right into the distance learning. And the distance learning was what each of our larger school districts offered to students or families who chose to have their students learn at home, but they had the teachers. So the teachers, of course, were teaching in person. They were face-to-face, but they were also doing distance learning. And then there were the ones that sending out information to those ones that were remote learners, so they didn't have access to that internet. Okay? The total number of students enrolled in the public and home schools increased by about 1% in Teton County, so we saw some movement out from the larger school districts and from other areas so they could take advantage of the smaller classroom sizes is what we seem to be getting, and a lot of those were in like Power and some in Fairfield. But if you look at those statistics down below, we may have seen a reduction in, like, I have them split up K6, 7, 8, 9, 12. You might have seen some reduction in some and some additions onto another one. Virtually, they were comparable to each of that. In 2019, we had a little over 1,100 students, and 2020 also with just a few changes or a few additions to that. And then I told you of some factors that could be in there. Can I answer any questions for you? Is there anything else you would like to see on here? Next year should be very interesting anyway. I apologize for being so late, but I had a lot of conflicts that were with this, and I will try to be a little more current at getting right after the first of the year. It's a day late and a dollar short, so if you've had to answer any questions about rural schools before this time, I do apologize.
Most of the schools are all back to in class.
Yes, of all of them, and you know, they're not accountable to me at that time, but I know we just turned in our transportation reimbursement, and that was very much looked at of if we had to go and we're in quarantine learning, or we went remote, but we were still in learning, but we were not face-to-face, and there was only one time, maybe a classroom in the larger schools, but the smaller, my little frontier schools, no. They were able to stay face-to-face. We kept all of the mandates that were the emergency policies that were instituted by us. So, any other questions?
Was there monies from COVID that went to the rural schools?
Yes.
And were you able to take full advantage of those? Or?
Yes, we did get some monies through the CARES Act. We got some monies through OPI, which that's what the federal fundings came down to first. And then we got some additional monies that came from the federal government last fall. And so we were able to provide our students with technology that could be used, and are planning for the most seamless learning to take place, no matter whether it was face-to-face or it was remote learning. In some of my attendance centers, which are my colony schools, they were ready with reams of paper and what they needed to do to make the students as successful as possible. So we were able to do that. What we really worked on with that monies, which was very nice to have, was the teachers were then educated in, and we looked at assessments that were the most consistent so we could get the best snapshot picture of how students were doing, especially during this time. When we're talking about our mental, social, and emotional, when you're talking to students and you have your mask on, it's very hard, especially your English language learners that have to follow and read your lips. Sometimes that's very hard to do. And so we got creative of how we could assess what we needed to do with them, put them in headphones so that they could actually hear what was going on, or if they were actually able to see it on a board or things like that. So that called for new programs to come in, new types of assessments. There are some good things that have come from this last year. Teachers have gotten outside of their comfort zone, which has been really good. They know that they've been more creative in a variety of ways that they can address student learning. It hasn't been easy. We have seen some fallbacks in the academic part of students, but that's also due to everything that has been going on during the course of the year. Since after Christmas, we have seen a little more stability. The kids are more comfortable. I don't know if it's the weather outside or what, but I truly feel this will be a better year, and that what we have installed with the COVID monies that we have received will definitely benefit our students. Any other questions? Thank you very much for listening, and if I can answer anything for anybody, just give me a call at my office, if I'm there. Thank you.
Thank you, Cathy.
Thanks, Cathy.
Okay, that brings us to the AmeriCorps MOU. The health department has an opportunity to get 2 AmeriCorps volunteers, and it's run through the Richland County Health Department. And basically, it'll be no cost to the county, and it's definitely needed by our health department. Melissa's already got a ton of things that they'll be able to accomplish with these 2 volunteers, so I need a motion on the AmeriCorps MOU.
I would make a motion to accept that.
I would second that. Any discussion? Melissa came to us with this program, and it sounds like it's going to be a win-win. Other health departments around the state have already been doing it, and basically we'll get 2 volunteers to help out with the massive workload that the health department's been responsible for.
And not only that, she's having 1 or 2 retiring, so this will give her time to fill those positions.
Yeah, that'll help that too. So any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll go enter into the MOU with AmeriCorps. That brings us to the COVID budget amendment. We have, Paula wanted me to have a hearing on this and take comments, so I'll open up the hearing on the COVID budget amendment. Basically, it's the entire amount of CARES Act spending that the county's received for the year. So I'll take any comment on that. Do you have any comment on the COVID budget amendment?
Does this hearing have to stay open for a week, or
No, I think
close it today?
I'm just gonna open it, and if we have no comment, I'll close it.
Okay.
So any additional comment?
Joe, what is the entire amount?
The entire amount?
Mm-hmm.
It is, and we have a resolution to pass.
Okay.
It's $428,034. So if I have no further comments, I'll close the hearing. Which brings us to resolution 21-16. It's a resolution to amend the county budget reflecting the unanticipated CARES Act money that we received. And the total amount again is $428,034.
I'd make a motion to accept that.
I would second that. Do we have any discussion on resolution 2021-16? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. That brings us to the power, water, and sewer hearing. The hearing's been open for 2 weeks, Sarah, and
Correct.
now I can close the hearing.
You are able to.
So I will close that hearing. We did not get any comments except for I got an email, and it was from the state. And basically the email just said that they've already done the state process. If it was the same project, then his cultural study was still in effect.
Yes.
So that, I guess that would count as the only public comment.
And it was more of a clarification. They wanted to know if they needed to go back through everything, and they've already done it, so, and made those responses.
Okay, so is that all we have to do for the power, water, and sewer?
Yes, and then there's another public comment period that will be published for 7 days to follow up to this. There's no public hearing or anything, it's just a 7-day comment period, and I have the press release for that so that we can get it to put in the paper just for a week in case anyone missed it the first time, apparently. So, part of the process.
Okay, but there's no action required for us to
No action required. You don't need a special meeting or hearing or anything.
Okay, that sounds good.
Even better.
All right, so that brings us to the East repeater lease. We have a lease with the Air Force. They share the repeater on the east end of Teton Ridge, and their lease is expired. So they want to renew it, and I read through it, and it's exactly the same lease that Arnie Gettle signed in 2009. So if I can get a motion on that,
I'd make a motion to accept the lease with the Air Force.
I would second that. Any discussion? It's virtually identical to the last lease that Air Force uses that for their.
So how many years is the lease for then, Joe?
This lease is, I think it's 5 years. 21 through January of 2026. And then thereafter, year to year without further notice. And it could extend till January or June 2029.
Okay, and is there any, do they pay us anything for that? Is there any remuneration?
They do, they pay a portion of the electrical costs, and they maintain their part of the equipment. And I can get you a copy of the lease if you would like.
Sure, super.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Brings us to commission reports. We had a work meeting on the bridges last week, and we've learned a lot. We have, I think our next step with that now is we'll probably approach the MDT and see if there's any way we can, one of the thoughts that Matt had was try to combine the off-road bridge system, bridge that's currently on the list, and combine that with the one on Spring Creek. So we'll approach MDT and see if that would be an option. It seemed like it would be a good option if it works, so we will follow through with that.
That and the railroad, we have to contact them, because we're in there right away already.
Yeah. Did you have anything, Dick?
I didn't.
So that brings us to public comment.
We have a board meeting the 24th in Conrad.
Sweetgrass?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, and we'll have our annual meeting sometime in April, and I'll send that out. Everyone's, of course, invited as always. So
Okay.
that's it. Tons of new business stuff. Very, very good in every county, so that's even better. So things will be moving, working on power and water, and next time I come, I will bring one of our new people with, so you can meet Corey. He's doing most of our business development stuff and some of our chamber contacts and that type of thing. He'll get into some project areas too, so
Okay.
that's where we're at.
Very good. Any other further public comment? Okay, our next meeting will be March 18th, and this one's adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Sarah, when was that?